I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. No one can stop me. I'm the best ever.
You are watching a master at work.
Today we are here at the VIP Mother's Day brunch here with our host, Miss V herself.
Yes.
So I want to basically go ahead and tell us, where did you get the idea to come up with this whole concept on supporting mothers, or basically uplifting mothers who have dealt with police brutality?
Well, it's a really large problem in our society today, and I am the mother of a 19-year-old black male. So I've been dealing with the fears of the police doing something to my child for years now. I try to keep him as far away as possible from police contact. I also have nephews around the same age as him that also help to raise. So we, as a family, have been trying to keep our boys away from the police. I'd say it was about 4 years ago when Nick Thomas was murdered by Smyrna police. And I knew of his brother, TJ. So when it happened, it really hit home because his brother was just a few years older than my son. Mm-hmm. So I came up with the idea because I feel like going through something like that, I couldn't imagine going through something like that. I don't want to ever have to go through anything like that, but I know it's a lot of people going through that on a day-to-day basis. It's getting worse. Mm-hmm. So I figured I could do something to let these mothers know that they're not alone in their tears. They're not alone in their prayers. They're not alone in their fight for justice when it comes to the police. Because if the police kill your child or your loved one, who are you supposed to call? We're supposed to call the police to protect us. So when the people that are supposed to protect us are the ones that are our enemies, who do you call? You have to call on your community. You have to call on your sisters and your brothers. You have to call on your loved ones. You have to call on people that understand what you're going through. So that's us. So I wanted to do something to honor the mothers, and God blessed me to come in contact with a lot of the mothers to be here today for this brunch, and it just turned out to be amazing.
Yeah, I would like to say it turned out to be extremely amazing. A lot of people do forget about the mothers. A lot of people forget about the mothers, especially in social media. So let me ask you this. How do you think social media, because a lot of us are witnessing, basically everyone are witnessing murders live via social media, so how does that affect you? Especially, I know for me, I deal with anxiety, just seeing murders consistently on social media.
I've gotten to the point now where I can no longer just watch the videos because I've done so much research and I have watched so many of them. So now when it happens, if I see what's about to take place, I'll try to shut it off and just immediately start praying for their family and their loved ones. I actually clicked on social media just the other day, and I saw a young man putting his hands on the steering wheel, and he was apologizing to the cops for making a move. He was like, "I'm sorry I moved, officer," and they killed him. Oh. It's just so much. It's going on every single day, and any of us can be victims. None of us are exempt from police brutality. Absolutely. I'm afraid to be pulled over by the police. So we have to continue to join hands. We gotta fight, like Miss Garner said earlier. Miss Carr, I'm sorry, Eric Garner's mom. Like she said earlier, we have to talk to these legislators. We have to vote. Absolutely. We have to get out here and find out who is it that's running our community, so that we do have police that care about us as human beings. Because we're being targeted and we're being treated like animals.
Exactly. So do you think there's an attack on how do you feel about, especially when a black male get murdered in social media, and on live TV, and the media will first of all portray them as criminals first and foremost? How do you feel about that?
Even though like a lot of the media is evil anyway, because you can paint your own picture with a camera. I could put a camera on you right now, and you may be clapping, and I could make it out that you were clapping at something that was horrible, but you might have been clapping at something that was great. It's all about visual. So when you're dealing with the media, you never know what you're going to get because it's all about perception, and everybody can look at one thing and perceive it differently.
And so there's a long list of African Americans and other minorities being attacked by police, and also their community leaders, whether it be politicians or congressmen, creating laws to, I guess, bring down African Americans. So at this point, do you believe that there is truly just an attack on our race and other minorities?
I do. I do, without a shadow of a doubt. When you have someone taken into police custody that is healing black people, that's letting black people know that you can eat healthy and you can cure certain things, you can cure certain diseases that men are saying there are no cures for, as far as AIDS, herpes, and the list goes on. And he's taken into police custody. Rest in peace, Dr. C.
Absolutely.
He's taken into police custody and then he's murdered. Yes, we're being targeted.
Absolutely.
When you have a young man that's pulled over by the police and, like I said, has his hands on the steering wheel, meaning he's not a threat at all, and he's shot and killed for no reason apparently at all, and we're watching this, there is an attack on black people.
Absolutely.
When you have a young woman that's taken into police custody and she's murdered inside the walls, rest in peace, Sandra Bland.
Yes.
We have an attack on black people.
Absolutely.
It's definitely an attack on minorities, black people. And I have a white friend that's being targeted by the police because she hangs with black people. So we can't say minorities, black people, whatever you want to call it, lower class, however you want to say it. Yes, we're being attacked.
And that's funny that you brought that up, because everyone knows who Meek Mill is.
Yes.
And we know the trouble that he's dealt with the law. And also, one of his great friends was Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots.
Right.
Now we've seen in the last couple months that he's dealt with allegations dealing with the prostitution scheme.
Exactly.
And I find that to be funny because before that there was never an attack on Robert Kraft, but once he came together with Meek Mill and tried to do the justice reform, there's an attack on him. So I feel like now it's blatantly in our face that there is an attack on us, there is an attack on our communities, and I really do need to find a way to stop that. And my question is, do you have some type of, do you have options or ideas that we feel that we can use?
We definitely have to get out here and vote. We have to stop saying, well, my vote doesn't matter, my vote doesn't count. Well, I'm not going to waste my time standing in that line and nothing's going to change. If all of us think like that, we're doomed, because it'll get to the point, they're putting movies out now where the government is actually going into project buildings and murdering the entire buildings. I just watched The Next Purge.
Oh my God.
This is a movie that I watched, and these people attacked black people, and it was the government. So if this movie is out, that means that's an idea.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Anything that's on that media, anything that's on that TV, they're thinking about doing it. And what are we going to do if they do that? Especially if we don't have the guns or the armor or whatever else to protect ourselves.
Oh, and,
exactly.
And speaking and talking about guns, how do you feel about
the gun
laws and actually being, owning guns? Because I know in my case, I say this a lot, where if the government has weapons, we need to have our weapons as well, because we don't know what the government could do the next day.
They're already doing it.
Yeah, they're already doing it. So I feel like there should be better laws pertaining to guns and better training. But how do you feel about the gun laws?
I feel like as a community, with us being under attack, we need to make sure that our young men and our young women are being trained properly on how to use the guns. They need to fill out the proper paperwork so that when they are caught with guns, it's not, oh, you're going to prison for 5 years because you have this gun on you, or you're going to prison for however long because you have this gun on you. We need to make sure that our children are educated on how to go about obtaining a gun legally and how to properly use that gun. And if it comes to it, you defend your life. Because like the song said, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Yes, period. So I do know that you have a 19-year-old son. How, every day when he walks out the house, do you have a fear every single time your son walks out the door, or do you fear that?
I try not to have a fear, because a lot of times if you fear things, God will make you face your fears. So I try not to live in fear. But do I have a concern for my son when he leaves the house? Yes. Do I pray for my son when he leaves the house? Yes. Do I worry if my son is a little late? Yes. I call his phone, I text his phone. I'm constantly making sure that he's safe. Constantly making sure that he's okay. Yes. And not just for the police, but just for other people that are out here killing people because they don't have the proper education about when to pull your gun and when to pull that trigger. A lot of people look at songs, listen to songs, and they look at videos, and they look at these rappers that's glorifying this gun violence, and they think every small thing warrants you to pull out a gun. And it doesn't. You don't always have to use a gun. I've seen friends, I've heard of cases where friends, and I know people where their friend killed him. Nipsey Hussle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody that he knew killed him. Like, you gotta know when to pull that gun. You don't always have to pull a gun to solve a situation.
Absolutely.
And that's another thing that we have to start instilling in our communities. They need to start learning this at school. They need to start learning this at church. They need to start learning this in the home. That gun is not the way to go, baby.
Absolutely.
If you gotta box it out, that's cool. Box it out. Learn how to box it out, shake hands, box it out, man, whatever you gotta do. But don't take somebody's life. You can't get that life back.
You can't get that.
But the more that we instill this in our kids, they'll start teaching their kids, and that's when you start to see change. But until we start uniting and trying to raise these kids with a different mentality, we're going to keep going through what we're going through with them killing each other and with these police killing us because we're not unified.
And with that, do you feel like our communities, whether black or white, do you feel like we mimic what our government does when they go to other countries and start wars with other countries and have these type of, I guess, rogue wars? Do you feel like we're just imitating that in a sense? Because when I look at it, I see that whatever the government's doing, we're doing it the same, just on a smaller scale. Like, we have pharmaceutical companies out here selling, distributing these medicines that you can get hooked on, but also you have the drug war, the trap, you got the trap selling meth, things of that nature. Then you also have us killing each other, and America doing the same thing. So with that, do you feel like we kind of mimic them in a sense?
I think that it's a terrible cycle. And I think that some of the young men and the young women, they see their uncles, they see their brothers, they see their aunts, they see their moms selling drugs. This is all that they know. And you can't fault someone for doing what they know. This is what they know. They saw their uncle driving this nice car, they saw their brother driving a nice car, and the way that he obtained it was through selling drugs. Nobody is teaching them better. And that goes back to, we have to change what we're teaching our kids. We have to change that so they can teach their kids different, and so that we can be better in the future. It's no point in staying the same. That means you're stagnated. So if you're doing the same thing they did, and they doing the same thing they did, we're not making progress. So once we change our mentality and we start feeding that different mentality into our children, we'll start to see different outcomes.
So do you feel like they're trying to, do you feel like the government or whatever, the whole community is trying to kill off black people? How do you feel about that?
The whole community, you mean?
Like,
the
police community. Do you feel like they're trying to, like, kill us off?
I don't feel like the entire police community is trying to kill us off. I know good police officers. And I know that with any group of people, you don't have all good or all bad. That's any group of people. So I don't feel like all police are bad. But I feel like the police that are horrible, it's probably a generational thing too. Because I know a lot of small country towns have prejudiced police that learned from their
father.
Exactly. Oh, my dad was a police officer and he was racist and he felt this way about black people, so that's all I know. It's the same thing. How we got to change our mentality some kind of way. We got to get in the heads of them where they change it too, where they ain't out here just murdering us. But then that goes back to us being educated on our gun laws, educated on who's at the top that's allowing these officers in here that has this type of mentality. That's why we got to get out here and vote. We got to get out here and vote. We got to get out here and vote, not just for our legislators in our community, but overall. We have to take more of a stand than what we've been taking, because we'll cry and we'll pray and we'll talk about it.
Protest.
Right. A lot of people like to get out and march and all that, but when it comes to, come on, let's go down here, like Ms. Garner said, they sat in the street and was willing to go to jail for that. It's a lot of us that's not willing to fight for the future of our small ones. And you got to be willing to fight for the future of your small ones, and we ain't going to have no future. It's nothing for them to come with guns and shoot us out.
And another question about police officers. Do you feel, say for example, you have an officer within like the Cobb County precinct, and he knows that they're racist cops or undercover cops that are doing rogue operations like selling drugs or anything of that nature. Do you feel like that officer that knows the information is a bad cop?
I feel like that would be a personal opinion, because that could be dealt with any group of people also. That goes to mind your business or not. So I can't say, oh, it's up to him to tell on them, because he could feel like maybe his family will be in danger if he says something. So that would be something personal. Me personally, if I take an oath about something, I stand on that oath. Absolutely. So if I was an officer and I see something corrupt going on and it's affecting someone else's life, I would probably try to pull that person to the side, like, look, that's not right. You need to cut it out. And I would probably make the decision to completely get myself away from them, because I don't want to be labeled as that, and I don't want anything to do with that. But then that goes back to the whole snitching thing and all that, you know. So that's why I say that would be something personal.
And I do want to say this: a lot of cops, police in general, are human beings, so they have they have their own agenda, they have their own upbringings, and they have their own mental health issues. So a lot of them, just because they have uniform on, doesn't necessarily mean that they are good. They're human just like the rest of us. So it's just
a lot of police officers never had any type of power either.
Absolutely.
So once they get a gun, they abuse it.
That is dangerous.
Yeah, that's really dangerous. They abuse it. They probably never even had a gun in their life. But now you're officer and you got this type of power. I watched, and I can't recall his name now, but he was, and I know that y'all know who I'm talking about. He was in the car with his girlfriend. And his girlfriend had exactly. I watched that video, and I watched how afraid that cop was after he realized what he did. But this is after the fact, and this is you putting the gun in the hands of someone that doesn't understand the responsibility that he's holding. And once you can't bring it back.
You can't bring it back. And with that, I want. Do you feel that officers of certain cultures or races should patrol their communities? Say, if African American officer was raised in East Point, Atlanta, should you feel like he should patrol that area instead of an area like Buckhead or something, because he knows those people more and he can help those individuals more than a white officer from Buckhead patrolling the neighborhood in East Atlanta, and which that officer, he's going to be scared because he hasn't been in that type of environment before.
I can't say either or as far as where they should patrol. I do think there should be an extensive training about the area that you're patrolling, because it's just like a different language. It's like if you send me into a Mexican neighborhood, they may speak a totally different language. And when I say language, I don't mean just words, I mean body language. I mean everything, a totally different language. So where I may see you and dap you up, and it's just like, oh, hey, how you doing? They might take that as, oh, she in this type of gang or something. So it's all about language. So people need to be trained on the areas that they're patrolling. Definitely, I do definitely agree with that.
I think that also. I think cops should have some type of counseling, like, you know what I'm saying, to be able to understand the thinking of others. So
I agree.
All right, and this is Free Game Radio Podcast, and what we love to do whenever we have interviews, we have a thing called Free Game Message, and that message can be about finances or helping someone out spiritually, mentally, or however. So what is your free game message to our listeners and to the world?
My free game message to the listeners and to the world is, no matter what you're going through, it's okay to cry. You can cry, make sure you pray, but make sure you keep going.
Right.
And one more thing before we wrap it on up, this is the first VIP Mother's Day brunch. Do you plan on having more?
I do. This one actually took 4 years to come into fruition, and now that it's done, I am so happy, and I do plan on doing it annually. I'm gonna let God guide me with that. I had some people that came to me today and said they would love to help if I did it again next year. So I'll definitely look into getting a larger venue, because this one is large and I know it's gonna be bigger next year. But I definitely would love to do this annually. And I also received word from Nipsey Hussle's mom that she would come next year if we did it again, but this year was a little too sensitive for her. Some other people out in LA, rest in peace to Dollar. I talked to his family. They would like to be a part of it next year. So it's definitely going to get bigger and better, and prayerfully we can start seeing some change, not only in our community, not only in Atlanta, but all over the world, from bringing these powerful mothers together and honoring them on Mother's Day. Okay, and then before we close out, one more thing, let the world know how they can get in contact with you. My social media, Instagram is at MissRawBaby_B, and that's MissRawBaby_BEE. My Facebook is Vanessa Bahar, and that's VANEESAH. Last name Bahar, B as in boy, AHAR. And my email address is vjbahar@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Wow, thank you.
I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. No one can stop me. I'm the best ever.
You are watching a master at work.